Welcome to a very special series of episodes of Can't Stop the Pop versus CCTV, the Nonstop Pop Show, where we are pitting Steps against S Club 7 on a single by single basis.
So, here's how it works in case you didn't listen to the last two episodes. Before the show, all of the singles were paired chronologically, starting with each act's debut and moving forward. But because S Club 7 had fewer singles than Steps, we've also padded out with S Club Juniors. We were going to go solo, but we couldn't put Lisa Scott Lee against Rachel Stevens.
No.
How could we decide? So we're going with the groups to give us 20 rounds. So over the next few episodes, we'll discuss how we voted at each round and ultimately find out which act came out on top.
So the panel for this expert and completely non-scientific pop-off is me, Matty, and Craig. And our wonderful guests, Chantel and Chris. How are you doing?
Hello. Really good. Ready to kick some butt today.
Kick some butt?
No. Kick some butt. Gonna kick it. Because our picks have been awesome, and I think people in the comments, our viewers, both sides could understand that CCTV has had some really good picks. You know what I'm just saying?
Oh.
I do have to confess, after the last time, I did go back and I was like, I might have been a bit harsh about Tragedy because I reviewed it for the website in the meantime, and I was like, it's actually really good. So I'm not changing my vote, but I will say that I think I was probably a bit mean about Tragedy. Matty, but I was mean.
He literally texted me and he was like, I'm writing an article about Tragedy and like, this is so good. And I'm like, I know. I said, he's like, do you just wait until Chantel and Chris are here? Just so if anyone is listening, we've had a mini interim and also a costume change between episodes 2 to 3. So costume change, there we go. So yeah, I'm so excited to get back into it. And once again, it will probably be Chris and Craig just being the mediators between me and Chantel. Just like
we were good last time, though. We were so good last time.
We were so good.
Great. I will say I'm kind of amazed because I feel like we never were all on the same side pretty much any round.
No.
So I'm kind of excited to hear everyone's opinions.
Oh Lord.
Oh my God, it's going because this episode we are going to start having to go into the S Club Juniors.
That's where it gets
so we probably will talk about that when we get to it, but there's going to be some fights. Let me tell you.
There you go. We're ready.
Okay, so before we do it, so we'll start with round 11. I'm here with my results, still checking my results very closely. So this was round 11, Deeper Shade of Blue versus Alive. And actually, there's not much fighting here. No one voted for Alive.
Oh, well.
Everyone picked Deeper Shade of Blue.
Yeah, I mean...
Well...
Come on. It's not really that hard of a pick. No offense.
Come on.
Like, it's not really that hard of a pick. Like, I mean, Alive is funky, and it sounds like a refined version of, like, what the group was good at, for sure. Like, the video was attempting to have the group come across as, like, grown-up and smexy at the club. But, like, you know... it just wasn't as good as Blue. Like, you have the first chorus harmony that snatched me up. The diva houseness of it all. H on the first verse. Like, I was gagging. And then the Space Crew costumes and the alien looks. Like, you can't get any better than the whole package that was Deeper Shade of Blue. So I was just like, dang, you know. Oof. It's just too powerful. Too powerful.
I mean, like, the thing is that by this point, we've said it before, the groups have sort of deviated somewhat in terms of where they were in their career. And I just think you can't underestimate how Deeper Shade of Blue was right bang in the middle of Steps' original discography. It is quite literally like the middle single. Whereas Alive is really at the tail end of S Club. After Paul had left, they'd had this new album, Seeing Double, in which they were going to promote the movie. And it felt very much like it was trying to be like a refresh, but actually, as you've just said, it's almost a rehash of stuff they've done before. Whereas, honestly, I could do and we have done an entire episode. Our first ever proper episode was on Deeper Shade of Blue because it's my favorite Step song. I genuinely believe that it's one of the sort of finest pop songs of that era that we produced in the UK. And you can't underestimate how much it shifted Steps' like focus. And they've always said that anything they've done post comeback, like we're talking Scared of the Dark, What the Future Holds, Something in Your Eyes, all those newer songs are all steeped in the vein of Deeper Shade of Blue, as in a slightly pop dance crossover that you can make remixes of. And great video. There's just there's no question. Like move on. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because we also recently did like a full S Club deep dive, and I hadn't actually listened to a lot of their full albums before. And Seeing Double actually is a pretty great album, and
the album's great.
Yeah, they took some sonic risks in it, but Alive is just the safest you could get. It literally sounds Don't Stop Moving Part 2 with nothing new at all. Like it's you really don't. The song is completely redundant in every way, I feel like. And even the video, nothing interesting happens in the video. Like, yes, maybe they were just trying to seem cooler and sexier or whatever. But even then, there's not even anything interesting happening in it. So it's hard to compare these two. But I do have a question because I've never fully figured out, was Deeper Shade of Blue as big a hit for the general public in the UK? Or is it more just that Steps and the fans kind of love it more? Because I feel like when they did their first comeback and they included Deeper Shade of Blue and all the medleys and stuff, I was like, I couldn't tell if that was actually because the general public knew that song well or if it's just because they loved it. Okay.
Like the thing is that, as we say, it was at the tail end of that album campaign. We've spoken about this. If this had been released as the first single off their third album, it would have been a number one. Like, this is, if you, from the general public, if you could pick 3 or 4 Step songs, even just as a non-fan, you probably would pick this, One for Sorrow, Tragedy, and 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, it's definitely up there. But the Steps fans have definitely elevated that, and the group themselves, that this is pretty much they always say their favorite song that they recorded.
Oh, see, now I would not say that, but I'm a recent convert to Deeper Shade of Blue because I really didn't like it that much at the time.
Get out!
I know. We've talked about it. I would say Steps have put it up there to make it well known, and rightly so. But I think they'd crossed over. This was just at the point where they'd crossed over to the point where the public had quite a fixed perception of them. They had their market now. I think they sort of got to that point where you either liked them or you didn't. And I don't think Deeper Shade of Blue would have changed opinions personally. But I think in hindsight, people would look back and go, "Oh, actually, it's better than it was given credit for at the time." So that's my personal feeling about it. But
I disagree. There was such a huge marketing strategy behind it because of the video. Like, I remember there was a thing in all the tabloids that they were like, "Oh, Steps no longer for their child fan base," because by today's standards, with far less censorship on, MTV and music channels, that sort of as you moved through that era. But this was still the turn of the millennium era, and a pop group that was mostly a child teen basis. To have the raciness of the video and the really edginess that was there, it was reported in tabloids. So I think, we've already done, for a full deep dive, go to the Can't Stop the Pop Season 1, Episode 1 to discuss that more, because otherwise we're going to go off on a tangent.
Wait, we're off on a tangent, and we're all supposed to agree on this. So I'll move on. We've argued and we all agreed. So round 12. I mean, I went to sleep during this round. If I'm honest, this is for me two of the most. Sorry, but this is like the two of the most boring singles that you could ever pit together. But this is When I Said Goodbye versus Say Goodbye. So. It was a split. This is a deadlock situation.
Not deadlock, okay.
So 2 people voted for When I Said Goodbye. I know it wasn't me.
It was me.
Here we are. And me.
Well,
Yeah.
justify yourselves. How could you vote for a song from one of the most uplifting, up-tempo groups to ever exist that is literally a 4-minute snooze?
Look, there's a part of me who actually loves kind of more adult contemporary ballads. Like, imagine Adele singing this. Like, it would be so beautiful. Like, I actually think the melody of this is absolutely beautiful. I remember when I heard it on the Spectacular album, it didn't really stand out to me. But when they started singing it live and they added all those harmonies and extra ad libs and stuff, that's when it really kind of really worked for me. And then the single version, which has kind of the orchestra just kind of amped up a little bit too. I just think it's so beautiful. It's not my favorite step single at all, but I think Say Goodbye, I appreciate the sentiment, but that's kind of it. Like, I think melodically it's kind of boring and not that memorable. I think it's nice to hear all the members, but some of them sound absolutely terrible. So between
Sorry,
these
Hannah.
two, I'm going to choose Steps.
Okay, Chris, I am so with you on this. Craig, we have already at length discussed your distaste for this song and my love of this song. So this was such a staple of their live shows. A staple
Toilet break of their live shows.
No,
Absolutely.
it wasn't. They have always said they loved this song, and it was. I tell you what, I'm sorry, but this song gave them so much credibility. I remember at the time, as someone we were buying the records, I remember my family being like, "Wow, this is really mature." And Chris, you just said, like, the melody is so beautiful. Like, it's such a gorgeously. Let's forget that this is the Steps versus S Club 7 thing. If you talk about it in a songwriting point of view, When I Say Goodbye is a gorgeous song. Structurally, melodically, the way the harmonies are, and also that, Craig, you don't like it because you have this weird thing that you don't like black and white videos.
I don't. I don't like black and white videos. They're really boring.
The video is gorgeous. It's in Rome at the amphitheater, and it's so classy. And as a run of songs at the time, I'm sorry, but Deeper Shade of Blue, going into this run of singles that they had in this block, is just Steps perfection in terms of what they were doing in the adult contemporary ballads, dance pop, and all this. Whereas Say Goodbye, dear Lord, like, I'm just like, it's the most by numbers. Let's throw together a sentimental song for this well past their sell-by date at this point pop group who. No, they were so done. They were tired. They were like, I am ready to go to bed. And Paul had left. The movie had not done amazingly. The album had not done amazingly. And they were contractually obliged to put out a greatest hits. So they carted them round like every single thing. Children in Need, Early Morning TV, GMTV, all these different things. And they're just singing this, miming this song like, honestly, when is my paycheck? I'd Say Goodbye is so forgettable. Sorry.
Oh my goodness, that is so harsh, and I feel like we're being really mean. But I will say, okay, I don't like black and white videos, but I think Chris Fox remastered the When I Said Goodbye video, and there's a full color version. I watched it, and I had a Phoebe from Friends moment. I was like, my eyes! It needs to be in black and white. It's so weird seeing it in full color. So I do like the video, and I will say, there's a bit in the middle of When I Said Goodbye when H and Claire sing together, and they harmonize properly, and I think they sound amazing. They should go and be a duo or something. Like, they sound incredible.
What a revelation!
What a revelation!
They never sung like that very often. They sang together quite a lot, but they never sang like that. So I do appreciate it. But all the reasons you slated Say Goodbye for are the reasons I picked it, because I love a pop song that is written to be a goodbye song. So I like the fact that their last single is a goodbye song. I like the fact that they all get lines, and you said some of them don't sound very good. I mean, some of them you can't hear at all. Like the second verse, it sounds just like a demo. But I just, the sentiment. I like the sentiment. The sentiment gets me. And I think now, particularly, they didn't perform it on their recent tour, and I could totally get why. But now I think having a song like that in their catalogue I'm projecting, but I just think it's such a wonderful thing for them to have, because Paul wasn't there in the first place. So it's so weird that it's So I picked it for all the reasons you hate it, Matty and Chris.
I don't. Hate is a strong word. It's more just that I think that it's very generically contrived. Whereas When I Said Goodbye is a gorgeous song. You listen to the version they did on the Party on the Dance Floor tour, which Steve Anderson did the same thing again with Heartbeat for the What the Future Holds tour, which was just stripped back piano ballad, harmonies. My God, it is a stunning song. Whereas Say Goodbye is what it is.
It is what it is. I also picked the Say Goodbye as well. So I'm hearing a lot of, but the version and the orchestra, but I feel like S Club didn't exactly get a chance to have the full on broken down contemporary like solo version at a dance competition that you guys are talking about, which is kind of unfair because it's like the orchestra, like you guys know the broken down version of pop songs that the contemporary girls do at competition. Like you're like, oh, there goes Crazy in Love. I didn't know I needed a violin version of it. Like they didn't get opportunity. So
this is Sadie from Wisconsin performing Crazy in Love.
Yes.
Like the contemporary.
Okay. Thank you. But my thing is, I got to this section in my notes. I was like, dang it, can this be a draw? Because I like both of the songs for different reasons. I think because S Club's version kind of feels a little bit more, I don't want to say R&B-esque. It feels like a Snowtown version of Boyz II Men's Snowtown version of what Backstreet Boys singing. You know what I'm saying? So it was just very broken down pop version, but I like the kind of feel of it, and then the sentiment behind it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put my foot down. I think I like the S Club version more because of the sentiment, because of Paul's like tie to it, because of the video itself. Like, did they sound great? No. But it's the idea that we were all like, everyone put their hand in S Club for life. And I agree with Craig in that sentiment for sure. I definitely was like, this is hard for me. But yeah, I feel like when I said goodbye, it sounds something from like a movie soundtrack for me, but not in a bad way. It's not terrible. The harmonies almost snatched me back though. But again, I was in the middle. I still am, because for me, like you said, Craig, this is a little bit of a snooze fest in our comp. I was just like, damn. All this dancing and and I was like, ooh. But vocally speaking, of course, Steps. But for what I felt and still feel, I think S Club just takes it. So I'm gonna stick on my side. I don't think I'm changing my mind here. It's gonna have to be a draw because I legit put that in my notes too.
Yay! Nicely justified, everyone.
The way that you said that, Chantel, was like, it's what I feel, but not what. Was so full on like Oprah. Were you silenced? Or were you...
Someone says that I'm very like very in the middle, like therapeutic, and I was like, that's just like this.
That is exactly the vibe I was getting. I was like, I'm sold. Like you might have. No, I'm not.
No.
But valid. Thanks, Maddie. Amazing. Yeah, this one was like, this one was a bit over me for sure.
Okay, so
right.
This
What's
actually
next, Craig?
pitted a double A side against a double A side. So we've got the other A side. So we've got Summer of Love versus Love Ain't Gonna Wait for You. 3 people voted for Summer of Love. I think I picked Love Ain't Gonna Wait for You.
Oh, interesting.
Oh
wow.
You know what? I don't blame you. I almost slipped over there too, so don't feel bad.
Really?
I almost slipped.
I finger slipped on the wrong button. No.
No. Sorry, my fingers are wrong phrasing. But I almost slipped.
Wow, this episode has descended, ladies and gentlemen.
We all make mistakes sometimes. Is what I got from you there.
I was like, it's okay. I nearly made the wrong choice too. Like...
My bad. But no, I almost picked it, but then I listened to
then you listened to it.
And okay, here's the thing, like it's a cacophony of Latin pop, and there's a subtle Irene Cara influence. It is because of that for me. I felt like it was like a superior kind of track, because like my thing with using samples or using interpolations is like, if it sounds like you literally just put this in your voice, I'm going to be annoyed. But the fact that they were able to get these blends of genres and kind of be able to mash up an Irene Cara song, I could be completely wrong, but to me, I heard what I heard. And I was like, ooh, okay, awesome. And then you get to this video with the alter egos. And if you're a K-pop fan, you know that there is a K-pop singer named Boa, and she had a video where she was dancing against herself. So I was just feeling all of these awesome, like, oh my God, they're dancing with themselves and they're battling. Oh snap, I love it. It was fun. But yeah, I think because Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You, I enjoyed it. The bass line draws me in and it's pleasant to the ears. But again, you get the Latin pop. It's a cacophony of sounds, but they've done it so tastefully that I was like, you know what? This is the stronger track for me. And I enjoyed it. I think it was just a little bit more fun than Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You. But it's, yeah. So, sorry. Craig, I left you. So
no, it's fine. Well, I like both songs.
Yeah.
Just... Something about Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You I really like. I do like the fact, so for me, it does everything that Alive didn't do in terms of, this is a post Don't Stop Moving songs. It's not a song they would have done before Don't Stop Moving, but it doesn't sound like Don't Stop Moving. And for me, that, I suppose in some respects, it's a better representation of the Seeing Double album and some of the sounds they went for on that. And I think because it was quite it wasn't massively promoted, it's not hugely known. It's never reached that point of overkill for me. Whereas Summer of Love is one of those songs that's it's always been part of Steps' catalogue, and I love it, but I've heard it, and I had to pick one, and I picked the one I thought, if I had to pick one to listen to right now, which is it going to be? It's going to be Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You.
Interesting. I think Summer of Love is just such a standout in Steps' discography. Like, it's just very different from anything else they had done. And I think after, I guess, the maturity that was shown with Deeper Shade of Blue, this just seemed like a great progression from that as well. But I just think it's just so camp and fun. Like, it's just so many voices all chanting this chorus. There's so many little hooks in there as well that they seem to have a lot of fun with. And then live, this has always been a highlight of their concerts.
Yeah.
With Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You, when we went to see S Club Chantel earlier this year, this song was a dud.
No, for me, it went off my heart.
No, but in the crowd, like
Yes,
in the
it was.
crowd,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
no
yeah,
one reacted.
No,
it was just us kind
well
of like
to it.
dancing with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You actually is a good pop song. I think it's just a bit generic. Like, I think given the time that we were in, like, this could have been written for Atomic Kitten, or this could have been written for kind of a lot of the pop groups that were just around at the time. So I just don't think it makes much of a statement, especially as S Club's quote, like, final single. Yeah.
I agree with everything that people said. I actually think if we go back to About Alive, I think Love Ain't Gonna Wait For You should have been the lead single. And if they were gonna, because I think that it is just a generally more joyous song. I remember it being on the radio quite a lot because there was a big, heavy push for this and Say Goodbye to do well in the chart. And I remember us being like, oh, this is the new S Club song. Oh, this is their last song? Oh, okay. But because it was on the album, but it was tagged on as a double A side, it was very much like, so the album didn't do well, so let's just push out a greatest hits. Goodbye. Like, that was basically how it was done. So it does feel like a nothingness of a release, which is a shame. Whereas Summer of Love, God, like, it's just such a great song, staple of their live shows. And the video, I'd probably say, is one of Steps' like top 3 videos. It's just so slick. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, which is my catchphrase that I should have on t-shirts. This run of Step songs I'd say from, spoiler alert, but from Deeper Shade of Blue to like It's the Way You Make Me Feel, for me is like just untouchable. I just feel like them with their videos, their look, the songs, it's just brilliant. So yeah, it's got to be Summer of Love. Has to be.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, great. Everyone's justified. I think it's absolutely fine. So, there ends S Club's 90s noughties.
Oh yes.
So we now move on. Steps carry on. Steps just continue. They're going into their 3rd album now, but we move into S Club Juniors. And I just, before we go into it, I just think this is such a corporate concept for a pop group. If I was in S Club 7, I would be like, what on earth? It's like when you're at work and they hire someone who's younger and sexier, and you're like, oh, so what am I now? I completely understand from a corporate perspective why this happened. But my goodness, what a weird strategy to employ, and also to then pit them against each other, because I don't know if Kristen's trying to tell you, like the Seeing Double and the S Club Juniors album were released at the same time. They basically went up against each other in the charts, which is such a bizarre thing to do. Like, if you want to get S Club, it's like, let's shuffle S Club off. Let's just make sure they know to go when they're going, because let's get anyway. So just such a bizarre concept.
They did this really weird tour as well, which
SW
was like
United, yeah,
good, which was meant to be S Club 7's goodbye tour, essentially. But you'd be so pissed if you were like, but it actually was then a full S Club Juniors tour as well. So it was like, and they did this whole thing with Craig. I could be making this up, and I do not want to get cancelled, but I'm pretty sure they did this thing with like Cryo Chambers, which is kind of Steps then did for their comeback tour as well. But like they did a thing where like they passed the baton between each other, and that was this like sort of, like, I've seen pictures where it's like younger versions and older versions, and I just think the whole thing it's such a weird Simon Fuller concept. And this is obviously we're still pre-Pop Idol here. Are we time frame wise?
I think we're on the cusp of
it. And I feel like obviously he'd had the Spice Girls, he then had S Club 7. This was like his continuation. Can you imagine if there'd been a Spice Girls Juniors? Like,
well, sorry, I was actually thinking about this, and I think because so we go way off on a tangent, because the Spice Girls sacked Simon Fuller, and because he had them and then he didn't. To me, this was like he was not going to let that happen again. I think if he'd had his way, he would have created the Spice Girls Juniors to continue because it was a brand. Spice Girls were a brand. They were a great pop act, but they were a brand. S Club became a brand at this point. It was so I think in some respects that's what he wanted to do. But yeah,
did the S Club fans embrace them?
Yeah.
Well,
Kids did. Yeah, I remember once. I remember the first album, like, where the singles did well. The singles did well, and there was really a fan base, but it kind of petered out because you were like, are you just going for 10-year-olds, or are you going for the 15, 16, 17-year-olds that have been with S Club 7 the whole time? Because they're not going to want a cover of Puppy Love. Like, it's, do you know what I mean? Like, and it's a really weird thing. I remember getting the album and being like, I shouldn't have this. I'm a bit embarrassed, actually. But like, but you wanted it because you liked the brand, and yeah, it's that thing of the continuation. You don't want to let it go, and it was the best thing that you had for S Club. You know,
yeah.
Sheesh.
Okay.
So round 14, we have Stomp from Steps versus One Step Closer. 3 people voted for Stomp, and one person. It's going to be me again, isn't it?
It's going to be you. It's going to be you.
Oh, goodness.
Voted for one Step Closer.
Oh,
good for you. You know what? 10 toes down. You go off. 10 toes down.
I actually love One Step Closer.
Yeah,
so
it's not a bad song. No,
not at all.
No,
but
you're fine.
it was covered by Craig. What's the stats? It was covered by an American
Juniors.
Well.
I can't remember what the group was called, but American Juniors, was that the name of the group? American Juniors.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, you are correct.
No subtlety whatsoever. Yeah. So yeah, we've got S Club Juniors. Let's just have American Juniors. What can we call them? American Juniors.
Juniors, yeah.
And they had the same dance routine, I believe, which I do still know. I'm not going to be ashamed. I do still know the dances. No, but it's like one step closer to heaven. Yes. Baby means one step. Da, 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 da. Really great choreo. I'm going to go to Pineapple Dance Studios and teach that as a class. Right. So, Craig, why did you pick One Step Closer then?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's just a great song, and so this is where I think S Club Juniors worked in terms of, even back in their first album, S Club 7, I don't think would have recorded a song like this. I know they did peppy stuff, but I don't think they were ever this peppy. So from that respect, I like the fact that it's different. There is a differentiation. I think it's a great pop track. It's still the little clap, the hand clap in the run up to the chorus. I mean, this just gets me every time. And yeah, amazing. And also credit to them, they got slated for being kids, and people were going, oh, they can't sing live. So they went on Top of the Pops and they sang this live. So credit to them, because they were 11, 12 at the time. 8 of them turned up and sang it live on Top of the Pops. So amazing. Yeah. And they didn't sound awful. I mean,
they sounded pretty good given the situation. Yeah.
There was some decent voices within those kids. Like for real, there was some good singers within those kids.
Yeah. So I mean, I think most people know how I feel about Stomp. I would push it off a cliff. If all the songs of Steps, any Step song that could have been their second number one, anything but this.
You had an argument. You had an argument with my friend who I actually met up with today, my friend Jamie, and I thought about this episode tonight. You had an argument on my birthday where he was talking about pop music, and you'd had a few drinks, you'd had a few Prosecco's, and he was just like, so my favorite Step song is Stomp. And then and you were literally like, Stomp! Whose favorite Step song is Stomp? Who are you? Get out! And you were so like visceral. I could see you in the corner. I was like, oh god, Craig's off. He's off.
Someone's talked about Stomp. You recognize it.
I'm in absolute tears. This is hilarious.
Wait, so why do you hate Stomp in a couple of sentences? I guess.
Explain why you're wrong.
It's okay. So they stole someone else's song and it wasn't even a proper sample.
It wasn't.
The songs, the Swedish stuff that they did on Buzz was 10 times better. So I just think this is a derivative NAF party track that's trying to tap into basic common denominator disco, like party dance for kids, for families. They were better than this at this point. That's I think. So yeah, take that.
You know what? Go off, because it wasn't clear. The sample wasn't clear, which I think is kind of effed up, but that's what happens. For those who know or don't know, I mean, when I first heard the song, I was like, it sounds really familiar.
Familiar.
Yeah.
It's chic, right? It's everybody clap your hands. Clap your hands.
Yeah, it's Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards. I mean, I heard the quote unquote original inspiration because of my parents. So I mean, again, it's just one of those little things where like the producers did capture a bit of the magic, but ended up actually just not a bit of it. It was like actually like, oh, we're not going to credit these guys, which is awkward. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you have S Club Juniors who have Kathy Dennis and 2 members of Dead or Alive writing the tune. Like, it's great. It sounds like a song that kind of sounds like S Club meets Kylie in a sense. It's good. It's very good. But even with future Saturday members like Rochelle and Frankie, it just did lose a little bit to Stomp for me. Like, I like the song, I like the way it sounds, but something was a little like, I've heard this before, and I get you want to continue the S Club brand as an introduction to the kids. Great work. Great work. I love the vocoder. You have the vocoder also in Stomp. Like, they both kind of have like the same vibe, the disco-y vibe, the talk box. I appreciate it. But I think I was a little bit more latched onto Stomp because vocals and also like nostalgic purposes. But I think S Club's Junior's introduction song with this was not bad. It's just Steps is just a little bit stronger, but not by so much where I'm like, wow, you guys blew them out of the water. It was just certain elements that kind of attracted me more. That's just my opinion though. But yeah, shout out to the kids. They tried their best, but just shy of getting there. Sorry guys, just shy.
All right, Whitney. I believe children of the future. Shout out to the kids.
I believe children of the future, but not S Club Juniors.
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Right. I was gonna say something, but I can't because it's from a rap song. He goes, "Them kids," but like literally.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, I just think that, yes, Craig, you could be a bit cynical as you are being and saying that it was a bit like, let's make a party track. But I think this goes right alongside Lasting on My Mind, Love's Got a Hole in My Heart. And it is them doing a disco non-sample. Yes, it is. But I just don't ever think I've ever heard this song and it not go off. This is, I think, a genuinely really great pop song. It does so well live. It is generally well liked by the general public as well, and not in an overplayed tragedy on the radio way. I do think general people go, "Oh, that's a tune," because the verse is so infectious. That verse and that hook that they've got in the verse of the "Thank God for the weekend" is just such a great opening line to a party song, and I think it just shows the versatility of the singles that Steps were putting out at that time. This is coming off Deeper Shade, When I Said Goodbye, Summer of Love, Stomp, and going into other different things. Whereas One Step Closer is a nice pop song. I like it more than Loving and I Wait for You and Alive. I think is a great introduction to the juniors. But it just doesn't come close to Stomp. Sorry.
Yeah, I love disco pop, so I actually really like both of these tracks. But I think Steps with Stomp is actually a great example of disco pop kind of at its finest, because it's just so catchy. It makes you want to sing along. Like, it's hard not to get some happiness from hearing the song. And I don't get the same impact from One Step Closer. So there you go.
Craig, sorry, when Stomp comes on my wedding playlist next year, if you complain, then
I'll just sit down. I'll just be like,
an album. Just Craig,
yeah, I'll sit down.
Craig in the album like this.
I will say, I'm just like. I will say, I don't want to. I clearly I've made my feelings. So I think for me, Stomp is probably the worst. When I think about Stomp, you know how we talked about the S Club 7 reached that point where they just looked a little bit. I would say old because they weren't old. I mean, they weren't old, but they looked a little bit tired and going through the motions. And I think Stomp looks like that in places to me. Lee wouldn't mime in the video because he wasn't couldn't hear his vocals. So you could also, they were getting to this point where I think rightly so, they were starting to push back against the facade a little bit, and I that jumps out to me. Whereas I don't think that continued. That's what I think of when I think of Stomp. I'm sorry, but One Step Closer will just get me going.
It's okay. Stand on your business. Stand on your hill.
Yeah.
Stand on that hill.
I will stay on my hill.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
That's okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I think we need some harmony to round off this episode. Yeah. So we've got It's the Way You Make Me Feel versus Automatic High.
You said harmony?
There is harmony and happiness with this one because nobody voted for Automatic High. It's the Way You Make Me Feel. Walked away with this.
Okay, yeah, shock horror.
Shock of horror.
Yeah, bit of an unfair one.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, what even is that as a song? I'm sorry,
okay.
But like.
I think I'm just confused, like, because obviously I didn't really know much about S Club Juniors. Like, I had heard these songs and stuff, but I never got into them at all. And I think it's because, like, listening through all these singles, I just don't really get who their audience is. Because I think conceptually it makes sense to try and capture the old S Club audience, but these songs are just like, it's not even kids bop. Like, it's like below that. Like, it's for toddlers.
Oh.
And I just don't really get that. I just don't really get what they were going for with this song. Because if I liked One Step Closer and I was like, okay, they're like tweens, like teenagers that are like, and if I was a tween, I'd be like, okay, like they're kind of cool. But then if they release this, I'd be like, no, like this is very uncool. So I just don't really get it, like just from an A&R perspective.
That's valid.
But regardless of that, It's the Way You Make Me Feel is so good that I think most songs that go against it would likely lose anyway. So I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually picked it because it is a little bit better, but for me, not by much. And I'm sorry if you do have like a really strong connection to it. Oh, I heard a gasp. Ooh.
Look at Maddie's face.
Okay.
Sorry.
So...
What?
And I think my biggest gripe is the vocal styling of it because what was trendy at the time. So hear me out for a second. But okay, so S Club Juniors, I think I'm impressed with them being able to sing well. So kudos to them. But like you said, just having this weird, like they're singing like in this weird head voice choral style singing that's kind of like kids boppy, but then it also gives me like decom musical, like High School Musical or Teen Beach Movie, where the kids are supposed to kind of like lean into it. Make me feel, I will say, gives me like Imitation Crab in the form of like Britney and Backstreet, but with a proper decom movie budget and like the costuming and the sets for the video, because the vocal stylings are not what they would sing like. Let's be real here. But the whole singing like this in the back of your throat and kind of tighten up the palate, they don't sing like that. So that's why I kind of was like that's
yes.
Not fair. You know, like...
I want a show of that, of just Chantel doing like I'm singing in the back of my throat, like just like that's like. Guys, we've got a spin-off here.
The back of the welcome to the back of the palette with Chantel. But no, where the notes hit the back and nothing else. Yeah, you know. So, but, right? A little twist. But my thing is, I like the song, but I just it's only because the vocal styling that I was just like, y'all can sing. Come on, you ain't gotta do the baby voice. Y'all can do it really well. But overall, the chorus is fun. I love how it's been able to develop into this awesome version of itself throughout the tours. Steve's Bridgerton moment in the last tour, I was like, holy crap, this is great. But yeah, that's my only like teeny tiny little like why. But aside from that, it does deserve the win from all of us, I think, without a doubt.
I just think, Chris, what you said is so true in that this was very much the record label with S Club Juniors going like, well, because just correct me if I'm wrong, Craig. One Step Closer didn't get to number one, did it? Did it get to two?
Number two.
Number two. And there probably was, it's mad to think in this day and age, a bit of a disappointment because they would have been like, oh, we wanted to launch them with a number one. So you can probably see the cogs turning to go, okay, well, let's go for a younger demographic with this one, even younger. And as you say, it's pre-High School Musical, and kids pop and like kids bops wasn't a thing in the UK at this time, really. So it was this wilderness period of like the bubblegum era is kind of shifting. So I don't think the song knows what it is really. Whereas It's the Way You Make Me Feel, as I say, for me, this is like the sort of just the stellar run of step singles coming to its peak. And it's one of their best songs. It's one of their best videos. It's just beautiful video that still holds up today. They obviously have so much affection for it. I love that all of them get the vocals. Yes, there is the kind of bizarre back of the throat vocal fry thing. Yeah. And I shout out to my favorite vocal moment that is hilarious on this, that is that for some reason, when it's in the recording version, when Lisa does the "Oh, I go weak inside, baby, I just can't hide" that bit, it's like a really lovely mixed voice, whereas I've never seen her do it live and not belt her tits off.
Yes.
Like, she goes,
it's her moment.
Yeah.
It is her moment where she's going, "My love," like I was like, I was like, babe, you could do it. Come on, Queen of the Huns. Just it's such a great song. It's a great song. It's beautiful.
When they performed this on this morning, when they did their first the comeback, and they were obviously really nervous. And you watch it back now, and you can see there's nerves because they didn't perform live a lot. And this is not an easy song to sing live
at 10 a.m. in the morning, like
at 10 in the morning. And I love that Lisa in particular, but all of them, they've all got the fans, and they are using those fans as like a support. And you can see as the vocals get bigger, the flapping gets bigger and bigger, which I love. I mean, I suppose I'm more tolerant of the fact that they sound like they're mimicking Britney, because that's what a lot of acts who ended up going to work with Swedish acts, that was the template. That's I think it's a real skill, particularly in this era, and I'm not sure that many other acts managed it really, to go and work with. It was Sharon, wasn't it? It was still the studio was still active, to go and do that, knowing the way that they were so instrumental in shaping the way Robin performed and the way then Britney performed and Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. They weren't just a production; they did influence performance style, and so I think it was inevitable that the Steps would do that, because that's just what they did. So I don't dislike it for that, but I do like Faye in particular during her verses does go very Britney in places. There's a lot of ow, wow, wow.
Yes, that thing.
She does that a lot. But I will say in Automatic High's defense, if you watch it back now, and you think this is before High School Musical, like you said, before Glee, before all of that, and you watch it now, you would think it was really heavily influenced by that, watching it, because the video in particular, they pair off and it's like girls versus boys, and it almost looks like it's been lifted from, it could be a sequence in a movie, and that's, I really like, I think in some respects it was, conceptually it was ahead of its time, but musically, I think I described it when I first wrote about it many years ago. I think I described it as it's like a crisp packet floating on the wind, and it just could float away. It's so lightweight and it's so airy, but there's no substance to it at all.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind?
I mean, that is this song. I like it for what it is, but you know, and when it got to number 2, it was another big hit for them, so can't criticize it. Yeah. Well, you can. We have criticised it, but
that is literally what we are doing.
But commercially, you can't.
Well, good for them.
Good for them.
Good for them. Good for them. Another number 2, another near miss, and not their last either.
Impressive kids. Let's go.
Well, Craig, I think it's time to wrap this episode up, is it?
Oh, yeah. So at the end of this episode, so the scores we've got, it's currently 8-3 to Steps. Quick maths, which means we've got 4 ties. So Steps are in the lead. So the best we can hope for S Club is that the next 5 they're going to pull through and they can have a draw. That's the game. That's the goal.
Good luck, puppy love. Good luck, puppy love. Well, join us next time where we will go through rounds 16 to 20 and declare an overall winner.
Right, don't forget, you can follow us on social media. Deep breath. I am Can't Stop Pop on X and Can't Stop _the Pop on Instagram and TikTok. Please give me a follow on TikTok because I'm getting loads of followers. It's great. Can't Stop the Pop is also available through all major podcast platforms, and you can check out our YouTube channel at Can't Stop the Pop.
And I am on social media at Matkins Actor on X, Matt_Atkins9 on Instagram, and the TikTok for the podcast in general is Can't Stop the Pop Podcast. If you go to either TikToks, both are linked, so give us both a follow because it all helps build up the brand. You go, guys. Give your little social media shout outs.
Yes, come join us at CCTV, the Nonstop Pop Show. We're on all podcast platforms and YouTube. And on socials, we are at CCTV Pops. We also now have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/CCTV Pops. And we do a free tier. And we've been doing a lot of reactions and extra bonus things for all of our producers over there. So definitely come hang out with us. We talk about global pop music. So that includes British pop music, American pop, K-pop.
All the pops.
All the pops.
All the pops. Popsicles.
Yes, popsicles. We deserve popsicles. So definitely check us out. See you there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for listening. Check out all the episodes of this special Can't Stop the Pop versus CCTV, the Nonstop Pop Show, Steps versus S Club 7 Pop Off on all your usual podcast channels. Bye-bye.
Can't stop the pop.